Hey everybody, it's Jeff back with the most interesting coin auctions for the week of April 25th of 2021. And there were a lot of auctions that ended this past week, so I'm going to hit on the most interesting and also talk about a little bit about the performance of some of these half dollars that finished at Legend Rare Coin auctions. There was a ton, over 200 half dollars up for sale out of the 500 total lots at Legend. So I'm going to go over the actual performance, how they did versus estimates. And then, of course, hit on some really interesting outcomes at great collections as well. I don't even have time to hit on the heritage, but I am going to comb through that and try and put out maybe the second edition of the most interesting coin auctions for this past week, just because there were so many. First, I like to hit on the top toner results. And this was the video I put out last on Tuesday of the most interesting toner auctions that are happening that you could still bid on. And I always like to kind of showcase how they ended up. These were all at Legend, and the auction went on Wednesday evening. So, of course, if you're watching this now, unfortunately, it's too late. But these are some of the interesting ones. I mean, this is a stunning Proof 67 Plus Cameo. It is a Simpson coin, although I don't have the holder here. And this had a Legend estimate of 15 to 18,000. As you could see, it sold just a smidge above. But this one was interesting because it actually sold on Heritage Auctions back in September of 2020 for just 13,200. So kudos to the buyer there that decided to flip it to Legend and made a nice little profit there, up 42% since September. The next one blew my mind. I feel like this was a scenario of a runaway auction by two bidders. And I mean, this is an upper echelon type coin. Obviously, for someone who wants a type set or a Buffalo nickel set or just likes to own top pop with pretty much a guarantee none will be graded mint state 69, or I can't assume that would be the case. This, of course, the 1913 Philly Type 1. And as I mentioned, the toner auction, I mean, call me crazy, but personally, I'm not a fan. Obviously, in hand, I'm sure this is even more stunning. Very original, crusty-like toning, especially on the reverse. That beautiful rainbow on the obverse. I mean, it's a great coin. Don't get me wrong, but for 68 plus, I have personally seen some nicer 67s and 67 pluses you could get for a fraction of the final bid here. But CAC approved it, and I do know there is one other at least mint state 68 plus CAC that you could see sold for 31.2 back in middle of 2020, and there's four in the grade, none finer, but this sold for 79,000. Even Legend estimated that 30 to 35, which is right in line with the comp. And up until really the final minutes, this had a bid of around 25 to $28,000. It was the live auction that this went a little crazy here. The next was a 1948 Philly Washington quarter, and I've been talking about the Washington quarters struggling a little bit. And there's definitely been some good sales and bad, and I thought this was really cheap for all things considered. Legend estimated this at 1,600 to 2 grand. This actually sold back in February of 2020 for 1,800 and finished at just 1,293. So if the buyer that ended up selling this, the buyer back in February sold this through Legends, they lost a pretty penny there, probably about $700 or $800 when you take out the buyer's premium. And then lastly, on the toner auctions were two stunning toned Morgan dollars. And there was a good comment on the toner auction that's saying that unique green on the obverse of the top Morgan is super rare. And that's the thing with monster tone coins. The rarity of how it's toned, the colors. You'll see towards the end here, I have a Roosevelt dime that is extremely unique that sold for way, way above PCGS value simply because of the uniqueness of the toning. So that is one way to look at how to price monster tone coins, is just the uniqueness and the rarity of the colors. But you could see, I mean, both these 81S, mint state 66, CAC did not approve either of these. And I know how Legend works. They send all their coins to CAC no matter what. I thought it was interesting CAC didn't approve it, honestly, but I don't know if CAC doesn't look at color. They only look at the technical eye appeal. If you know, definitely leave a comment below. But you can see, I mean, these blew the PCGS value out of the water, but the most intriguing is the top one sold for 51.70, whereas the bottom just 17.62, both well above estimate, of course. Looking at the C to halves, there are a lot of these, a total of 145 lots, pretty much every year or every date and mint mark of business strike and proof. I'm guessing it was one collector that collected the entire series and then finally decided to sell and did quite well. As you can see, a total of 145 lots, roughly 80% of them finished higher than the highest estimate of Legend. Now, a fair disclaimer, I've sold through Legend. I mean, as most auction houses do, they try to be reasonably accurate but conservative because they like to promote that things sell for above estimate. So while I think it's telling that just 4% finished below the low estimate, roughly 16% finished in between their kind of low to high estimate, it was certainly strong, and the average beat, so to speak, was around 19% higher than the high estimate. I mean, next up is Walking Liberty halves. There are a total of 57 single lots. This does not include the Gerald Forsyth auction that we're going to talk about next. These performed also quite strong. As you can see, again, roughly 83% of them finished higher than the highest estimate, with an average beat of 13%, so just a smidge lower on a relative sense than the C to halves there. A few more of them finished below the low estimate, and I kind of want to pull off some examples here. And of course, the one on the left is a monster coin. It had an estimate of 225,000 and sold for 340. Now this was a pop one. It's the finest known coin. It sold extremely well. Whereas the one on the right had an estimate of 8,500 and 9,500 and sold for 76.37. So I was trying to pull out like necessarily were there trends in particular. Maybe it needed to be top pops or certain price levels that sold better or worse, and there really wasn't. It was quite random. So it's hard to really extract anything interesting from that. But definitely overall, a huge percent, 83% of them finished higher than the high estimate, which again trends to the current strong market. And of course, as I mentioned, the Gerald Forsyth, and this was intriguing because to be able to buy an entire set and immediately put yourself as the top of the PCGS registry set, in my opinion, I think this is almost an indication of where the PCGS registry set is going in terms of popularity. Are the uber rich really that intrigued to buy the number one set? I mean, someone who has tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, if you really want to go crazy, could spend $3 million and not necessarily be overly fazed by it, and then to immediately own the best known. I would have thought there would have been appeal had the registry set continued its popularity, but call me crazy. I think it's still always going to be popular to some level, but I just don't know if it has the massively growing appeal that some people might believe. I think people are more interested in just collecting their own style of collection, whether it be their own types of sets or series or collections of tone coins that don't necessarily fit into the PCGS registry set. It's really hard to say, but this one did not sell. And maybe it also hurt that there were 57 near top pops or top pops that came up before this lot on the auction. And what probably didn't help either is Stack's Bowers just announced that the Lulu collection, which is number one all-time finest short set, which I think starts at 1938. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. That's going to be up for auction coming up, I think in about a month, or maybe it's the end of this month. But definitely check out Stack's Bowers. I was looking at them. It's only about 10 or 11 coins. Absolutely stunning as well. So the Walking Liberty halves, the top pops have been flooding the market in the last 30 to 40 days, which is really interesting to see. Jumping over to great collections. This one was really intriguing because actually I sold a 1913 Philly Mint State 67 plus CAC just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and always keep track and just keep an eye on these particular coins because this is, in my opinion, a really popular type coin. is type 1, so it really needs to fit everyone's typeset. But you can afford a fairly high grade at a reasonable price. And all four of these happen to finish on the exact same day. As you can see, there's one NGC, three PCGS. They all have very similar looks, which is extremely nice, not super colorful toning. So I would have guessed they would have all finished around a very similar level. However, when you look at the final prices, there's huge deviation. The NGC sold for just $877, which is surprising when you think about there being a CAC sticker around that. So, I mean, CAC effectively said it's identical to the other three coins. And maybe this is kind of a representation of the value of the PCGS holder, just bringing more, right or wrong, or whether you agree or disagree, it's what the market's saying. But even within that second coin, the middle left, selling for just 1,097 versus the one on the far right selling for 1,821, that really didn't make sense to me. So I wanted to pull out the true views. The one on the right is what sold for 1,821. The one on the left is what sold for 1,097, and they look very similar. I guess there's some color on the one on the right, but not much. I've seen a lot of these coins, and none of them necessarily stand out as absolutely unique and deserving of some huge premium compared to the others. So I thought that was really intriguing why they would settle at almost 40% less. When you think about the back bidder, whoever lost on 1821 should have stuck over to the other auction and bid it for 1,097 and gotten a much better deal. And then this coin, the half dime, 1795, top pop for the variety. There are two other varieties that are also mint state 67, but clearly an upper echelon coin. And the PCGS price guide is 175. Well, this sold for a smidge over that, 180,000. And right away you think, okay, that's pretty good, right in line, maybe a little bit strong. Well, this coin actually sold back in November 2020, the exact coin on Great Collections for $201,000. And you think about it, they bought it in November 2020. This couldn't have been a return. They just now put it back up for sale. They lost $41,000 when you account for the fact that they, as the sellers, collecting 160, the 20,000 extra is going to Great Collections for their service. So they had to pay $201,000, and they end up net collecting 160 grand. That's a smooth $41,000 loss for a short holding period. So not everything's going up. And then lastly, this one was really intriguing. This solidifies, in my opinion, the incredibly strong market right now for uniquely toned Roosevelt dimes. Really, it's just kind of mind-boggling. I've been buying and selling and really collecting Roosevelt dimes for about 3 years. And this exact coin, say 2 years ago, even with its unique toning, probably would have sold for $200-300 maybe. Call it a 3 to 5x multiple of PCGS value. Well, this one sold for $1,406, which is astonishing because it's not even a 67 plus, not a 68. It's not a full band. It's just a good old fashioned mint say 67. And the owner of this coin probably realized it was only a $55 coin, did not pay up for the true view, which was unfortunate. If you ever have a toner like this and you're getting it graded, please spend the $5 for true view. It will result in a higher sale at the end. But this one sold for 26x of PCGS value. So just crazy. But yeah, a lot to talk about. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Take care.